little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. Hi! Hope all of you are doing well today. I'm doing fabulous. Why is that? Because I get to show you another stitch. Yes, lately I've been on a bit of a Tunisian crochet kick, and well, today is no exception. Today I'm going to show you how to do a really super duper easy chevron stitch. It is just a one row repeat. Absolutely love simplicity. And, well, I think it is really quite stunning. Yes. And for this particular swatch, I used Lion Brand's Big Scoops ice cream yarn in the colorway of Blue Raspberry. And for my hook, I used, this is one of my Chiaogu crochet Tunisian hooks. This is a size K, which is a 6.5 millimeter size hook, and of course you are going to need a nice cord if you want your project to have some width. As per usual, I'm going to give you the multiples so you can make this as wide or as narrow as you want to. And well, without further ado, let's get started. All right, so as per usual, first things first, we have the base chain. Now, for this particular stitch, you are going to need a multiple of 14 chains plus one additional chain. So right here, I've got two multiples of 14, which is 28, plus the additional one. So I've got 29 chains here. As I said before, you can make this as many multiples of 14 as you want. If you want something more narrow, like a lovely scarf, or something wider, like a blanket. Totally up to you. What I would suggest, as always, make a swatch first. That way you can determine how many multiples you would need in order to obtain the desired width of your project. Now, as I always say when I do any sort of ripple or chevron project, the width that you have at the moment, well, it's not going to remain that width when you are doing your stitch because you have these undulating ripples going on, and it sort of acts like an accordion and brings that chain inward where you have your peaks and your valleys. So keep that in mind, that more than likely you are going to need more multiples than you think in order to obtain your final width. But that's why we do swatching. Also, as far as the weight of this yarn, it is a weight of 3, and that is why I'm using a fairly larger sized hook. Usually I would use like a size H for this weight of yarn, but because Tunisian, it has a very dense quality to it. As far as the construction of the stitches, that's why I always recommend go up at least a size or 2 for determining what hook size to go with what weight of yarn. Ultimately, use whatever works best for you and get your base chain ready, multiple of 14 plus an additional 1, and I will see you for the first row. Okay, so when you have your base chain all set to go, we're going to start with the first row, which is a foundation row of just Tunisian simple stitches. First, we have to do the casting on of our stitches. And for most Tunisian, I like to work in the back bump as opposed to the top of the V. It mitigates a little bit of the curl, and anything in our favor is worth doing as far as I'm concerned. So turning the work a little bit, and then going into the back bump and pulling up a loop, going into the next chain, into the back bump, and pulling up a loop, and so on and so forth until we have done all of our chains. Now, as I said, I only did 2 multiples plus my additional 1, so I've got 29 that we're going to end up dealing with. And what I'm going to do to save you the agony, I'm going to do the remainder of my casting on off camera. This is the slow part. This is the slow and somewhat fiddly part. However, it is worth it. So I'm going to do the rest of these little back bumps off camera, and I will see you for the return pass. Okay, I'll see you shortly. Okay, so I have all of my 29 loops on my hook. So basically for every chain that you do, that equates ultimately to having a loop on your hook. And so now we're going to do the return pass. And as always, be sure that you're not working with your tail, but you're working with your actual working yarn. So I'm just going to actually cinch that a little bit, get my tail out of the way, and work with my working yarn, and then begin by chaining up 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And that you are going to do for the remainder of your stitches. Just yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, until you have but 1 loop left on your hook. You always have at least 1 loop. And this goes way faster. And then, after we have our foundation row finished, we will commence with the actual pattern of the chevron. And we'll do that a number of times because, well, I like to be thorough. I like spending time with you guys and showing you what you can do. Okay, and we're almost there. And there you go, just 1 loop left, and there you are. Okay, so let's get started in with the pattern. Okay, so the thing about chevrons is that it incorporates increases and decreases, 1 increase for every decrease, so that ultimately you have the same number of stitches, but it creates some shaping. On the edges here, it is on the upswing, and then in the valleys, that's where we have our decreases. Then we have increases, decreases, increases, decreases. And it's by utilizing those stitches that shapes what we're doing. And that is what I'm going to show you, because it's not just about saying, okay, this is what we do, but I also want to incorporate why we are doing what we're doing so that perhaps it makes a little bit more sense. So because we're starting on a peak, we have our 1 loop on our hook. Now, at this point, we're going to do an increase, and that is going to be a yarn over, okay? Also, something that I found myself doing is actually doing that. That you do not want. No, you want to go around the top and that way. I've done it many, many times. I'm like, why is this coming out weird? It's because you want to go from the back around to the front as such. So we have our yarn over, that's our increase. Then we're going to pick up 5 stitches. So underneath the bar, pick up a loop and pull it up. So that's 1. Underneath the bar, pull up a loop, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we had our original loop, then we did our yarn over, and then we did 5 picked up stitches. Now we've reached the valley. In the valley, we need to do what is called a double decrease. So instead of just going underneath 1 bar, we're going to go underneath the next 3 and do our double decrease. It's going to turn 3 stitches into 1. So underneath 1 bar, 2 bars, and 3 bars. And then we grab the yarn and pull it through all 3 at the same time. And then next 5 stitches are going to be as normal. So underneath the next bar, pull up a loop. That's 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, to mitigate the double decrease that we did, well, now we need to do an increase of 2 stitches. So, yarn over, knit or stitch the next stitch. It's not knitting, but stitch the next stitch. There we go. So we have our yarn over a stitch, then we need another yarn over, then stitch the next 5 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think the reason why I said knit the next stitch is because whenever I talk about yarn overs, usually it's in the context of knitting. So forgive me. Okay, so if you look at the back, you can see where we had our yarn overs right here and here. So we had the yarn over, stitch, yarn over, and then 5 stitches. Now we need another double decrease. So through those next 3 loops, I'm going to bring those together. So into 1 and 2 and 3, and then stitch those together like so. Then stitch the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if you remember, when we started off, we had that 1 loop, and then we did a yarn over. Well, symmetry, symmetry, symmetry. We need to finish in the same way. So after doing our 5, yarn over, and then stitch the last stitch, being sure to go through those 2 loops at the edge there for a nice clean edge. Pull up a loop, and there you go. So that is the forward pass of the row. And now the return pass, well, it's really quite simple. So yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got that chain 1, then yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. And so on and so forth until we reach 1 loop on the hook. And believe it or not, that is the entirety of the chevron. But yes, I'm going to do a couple of repeats because I feel that I would be remiss in my duties to you if I was not thorough. Just be sure that you're only pulling through 2 as you are doing your return pass. And all of the little helpful hints and suggestions that I give to you, it's because I have made all of these mistakes myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel it would be necessary to say anything. Okay, just 2 more. Boop and boop. And there we go. Now, obviously, it does not look like terribly much at the moment, but it's early days still. So let's do another row or 2 together, and, well, let's get to it, shall we? Okay, so let's do a repeat row. Now, again, we have 1 loop. Start by yarning over, and then stitching 5 stitches. And don't forget this one that we just added. This was a yarn over, but we're going to work into it as one of the 5. So going in, pull up a loop. There we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then the next 3 bars, we work together. So it's 1, 2, and 3. work them together for our double decrease in the valley. Then stitch 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this 5th one looks sort of weird, but actually we're just going to go underneath this bar right here. That's the front bar, but it looks weird because that was a yarn over that we did. So go underneath that one for the 5th. There we go. And so this is going to be the one that we're going to be stitching into, but we still have to do our yarn overs. This is the peak. So yarn over and stitch, yarn over, and then do the next 5 stitches. Again, this bar right here, that's from our previous row's yarn over, going underneath that bar for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then the next 3 get worked together. So underneath 1 and 2 and 3, work these 3 together. Then we do another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and underneath this bar for number 5. And then, of course, we have to increase at the edge here. So yarn over, and then the edge stitch, being sure to go underneath both of those strands there. Pull up a loop. Okay, and then we get to do the return pass, which I think is my favorite part because it goes so fluidly and quickly by comparison. So chain up 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2, pull through 2, and so on and so forth until you have but 1 loop left on your hook. Something very satisfying about the return pass. I don't know what it is, but it resonates with me. I do like it. There we go. Okay, very, very good. So it's starting to get fleshed out a little bit more defined. Let's do another row or 2 together, and then I'll show you how to do the bind off. All right. Okay, so for another repeat row, start off by yarning over, then 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Decrease through the next 3. So, oh, I almost made a boo-boo. Yes, I have to go through the 3 first. There we go. And then pull the yarn through all 3. There we go. Then stitch the next 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then be sure to go underneath that bar for the 5th. Then yarn over, stitch 1, yarn over, and then stitch another 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then, since we're at the base of our valley, we need to decrease these next 3 together. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. Stitch these 3 together. There we go. Then another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that 5th one always likes to be a little bit elusive, but I got it. Then increase at the edge, yarn over, and go underneath both loops at the edge there. Pull up a loop, and then we get to do the return pass. Chain up 1, then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2, and so forth until we have just 1 loop left. Now, for this particular stitch that we are doing right now, yes, by all means, you could use a solid colored yarn. Sure, nothing wrong with that at all. However, I think that this stitch really lends itself to a yarn that changes color. I wouldn't necessarily suggest one per se that changes every couple of inches or so. I think that would look a little too busy, but this one creates a beautiful striping effect because you have a decent length of each color before it transitions. An ombre also would look incredible by all means. There we go. Another thing that you could do is if you wanted to change colors, what you would do is at this point, when you only have 2 loops left on your hook, you would pull your new color through both of these loops, and then you would put yarn to the back, and you would continue on with the new fresh color, and you would alternate back and forth, or however many rows you wanted, between the different colors. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to be going with the one color because, well, it changes beautifully as it is. But there are ways of, incorporating other colors. So let's do one more row together, and then we will do the bind off. Alrighty. Okay, so for one more row, yarn over, stitch 5. So underneath that one right there, that first one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Decrease these 3 together. So under, under, and under those 3. Pull the yarn through all 3. There we go. Stitch 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, stitch 1, yarn over, then stitch 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stitch the next 3 together at the base of our valley. So underneath 1, 2, and 3. Pull through all 3. There we go. Stitch the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yarn over, and then stitch through that last stitch. Voila. Okay, pull out a little bit more yarn, and then we can do our return pass. So chain up 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, almost there. Ta-da! It's a thing of beauty. I love it. All right, so now I'm going to show you the bind off. Okay, so now for the bind off. Now, I didn't do anything particularly new or novel or anything with how I did my bind off for my swatch up there, just doing the usual bind off. I didn't incorporate, any increases or decreases, which may or may not be the correct way to do it, but I just went for the very simple, basic bind off, which is going underneath that first little bar right there, pull up a loop, and then pull the first through the second. Going through the next bar, pull up a loop, first through the second. You want to do that a little bit loosely so that your piece does not curl as much as it could. So you just keep pulling up a loop, first through the second, pull up a loop, first through the second. See, I think it looks nice. Pull up a loop, first through the second, pull up a loop, first through the second, and so on and so forth until you have but one loop left on your hook. That easy. I wanted to go with strictly simple measures for this particular stitch, and this is no exception. And just a couple more. All right, and then don't forget this little guy right there. Pull up that loop. And then into the very, very end here, always going through those both loops there, up and over, and then you can snip your yarn, pull out your loop, and there you go. It's so scrumptious. I love it. Alrighty, my dears. So that's going to conclude today's tutorial on the Tunisian chevron stitch. I dare you to say that 5 times fast. And I really hope that you liked today's video. And if you did, please give a little thumbs up button down below. You know that I appreciate your appreciation. And in the comments section, let me know, what are you going to do with this stitch? What sort of project, what sort of yarn, what sort of colorways? Always interested in hearing about your creative process and your journey. And that being said, in the description box down below, there will be affiliate links as well as timestamps and the usual jazz, you know. And until next time, you know what to do, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.